Hey everyone, how's it going? Uh Bad Friday today. Took a major loss in my account. Pretty much blown account today. Well, no, I didn't blow my whole account obviously, but um this is like a account blowing loss for sure. Um won't say exactly the amount, um but it forces me to go back to the drawing board, which is good. And I came across a situation I haven't came across before. So this is one of those things that are just, tuition. You pay your fee and you learn from it and move on. So what caught me today was LCFY. And what was unfortunate about it, and these moves do happen, like, and I'm prepared for them. Um, but what was super unfortunate about it is the news came after I took my position. So I saw this popping up into this area where we were getting shorting, right? 367. Um, I took my initial short at 306 here, and it shows a little bit of indecision, and then grinds higher to 362. I'm like, I'll just add into this sort of these pre-market levels and go from there. And you can see in this price action, it just grinds up, grinds up, grinds up, grinds up, and now I'm down pretty substantial. And we open on the market, everything below 9 gets bought up. My average cost is like around $5 a share. So it's just not ideal. And, big volume candle. We break out above highs. It starts holding. I cover because I'm like, this can go up to $20 a share, and I cannot afford for it to go up to $20 a share. Gets shorted, cracks down, comes down to about $7 a share, and then builds support at 7. So my average cost was at 5, and this never came back to my average cost. So this is all I traded today. Took a big loss. It was my biggest loss since I've been trading, but this one wasn't preventable if unless it happened to me, if that makes sense. I haven't accounted for this scenario yet, where it spikes and then the news comes out. Thinkorswim is delayed. So if something is popping up in that scanner, typically the news is already out for it. Because we would be in kind of the span of when the area where the a lot of the time I'll go through stocks that are spiking and the move already happened and it's just popping on my scanner after it sells off already. So how could I have avoided this? If we look at the float for this stock, go to fundamentals here and toss it up. The float is 1 million shares. On this candle, we traded 84,000 shares. And then on this candle, we had 332,000 shares. And the float is 1 million. So a third of the shares outstanding got traded in this candle. And then we closed here. So what does that tell me? That means that out of the total supply, 30% ish is being traded above 3, bought above 3. We had this wick down. In retrospect, I definitely could have got out a little bit there and played the breakout, but I was expecting this to come down to the 2.7s, 2.78, because that's where I saw support form. But just explosion. Look at the increasing volume, 400,000, 720,000. So this is not ideal when float is what it is. And so I'm gonna make adjustments, and this is how I'm going to adjust. I'm going to add an indicator for float. So adding something here that has the float and looking at the float as a percentage of volume, or volume as a percentage of the float. So if I can figure out a way to have an indicator that takes this number uh, and and um, and divides it by the float, then it's a very easy way for me to know we're in a bad situation. The other telltale sign is how overwhelming volume was at the point of the breakout. So we had a breakout here, and you see how volume was. So I was hoping to cover here. It came down at 242, and I just couldn't. I didn't cover there. I thought it would come down more given how this was showing. And this is the problem with not having a clear profit target, a clear risk. Is I'm going off of what I'm seeing, and if I'm wrong, I can get caught in really bad situations. Um, just like looking at how this grinds up, you wouldn't really expect it to keep going up. This is like the fifth leg. We had one leg here and a little pullback, then one leg here and a little pullback, then one leg pullback, one leg pullback. One, two, three, four, fifth leg up, and typically by the third leg, there's reversal. Red candles here indicating that momentum is weakening. It was pointing towards a reversal coming, but see how far this went up, and it ended up breaking out another time intraday. So this is the risk of my strategy. And I could have had a much lower loss, but to be honest, it's one of those situations where, since I don't know, and since I was wrong so many times and expecting, like, my thesis was invalidated basically at this point. So I could just get out here at 6. But, I keep adding here, hoping for the reversal at this point, trying to get my average cost up, and it just doesn't work out. So that's okay. This stuff happens. It's part of the game. I needed this to happen to me for me to realize the flaw in my strategy. Obviously could have had a smaller loss, but I'm honestly like not too worried about it, because if there's ways to filter these out. The reason why this had a grind up like it did is definitely because of the news. But given I didn't have news information when I went in, the float, this volume relative to the float was way too high. If we're getting in one candle the float, then this is just not good. And what does that mean? That means this is good for long. Playing this to the long side is really strong. After seeing that news come out, right? Waiting for that little pullback and then going long, and you can just ride this all the way up. I mean, the only point where there was a true break of structure was here. So after this point, you want to kind of get in at high of day or play here. I do really like playing head and shoulders in this kind of situation, where we have this. It can also be played as a double top here. But yeah, like this entry is solid, and then adding here is solid on a false breakout, because by this point volume is pretty much tapped out. But the float is so dangerous. 1 million float. Look, 1 minute candle, 1.3 million shares traded. And then we have 95 million shares on the day. So the probability that they issue more shares is very high on this. Definitely a good swing trade, but cannot play this short intraday. So that's why I want to have a float calculator indicator. That way I could, one time look and understand is this one that has potential to squeeze like crazy? And it can also help add to potential um, uh, what's it called? Um, long strategies. Um, so yeah, so as an example of like the other side of things, MLGO, um, this one did squeeze in the past, but had a very similar, if we see here, had a very similar situation where the float was low, and then at this point they issued shares. So this could very much happen for um, the stock I traded today, but uh, we never know. So yeah, so I think that'll help. I also think that I should cap my number of entries. So after 3 entries, if I'm still getting squeezed, just get out. Setting a cap will definitely be a good way for me to lower my losses, and then I could always get in later. Like I don't have to. I don't have to um, make money on that day. I've had days and consistent days of green, right? Like if we look at like my past trades, they've been green. Um, but this happens and it had to happen to me. This specific situation had to happen to me to point out the warning signs of my strategy. So adjustment 1 is looking at float. Adjustment 2 is checking news to see if anything comes out after this action. I mean, I'm 4 entries in. By the 4th entry, the news came out. So I didn't need to be in. I think it was at let's see. No, it was right about here when news came out, 5:49. Keeping an eye on news when kind of crazy action is happening is important, because if I had seen that news at this point, I would have got out. It's something I would have. It was like a AI US deal, like probably the most bullish news in 2025 you could have possibly had. Um, so, anyways, wouldn't have traded this if that news came out pre-market. Well, at the time of the first entry. And then being patient with my ATR ads and setting fixed risk. So I'm going to go with 3 entries. I think that's my sweet spot. After 3 entries, a lot of the time, I think I'm adding close to 10 entries on a given stock. Also, I do want to add, if I got out here, the loss would have been a quarter of what I had. So holding would have been fine, but this is so scary. Like this is scary. So don't want to hold and have it explode another 500% and have a even worse loss. You can't have that. So yeah, number 2, monitoring news and closing as quickly as possible. And then 3 ATRs. So after 3 entries that are based on ATR, I want to have my stops also be based on ATR, where if we have a pretty extreme move to the upside, I'm not adding after that point. So yeah, we're breaking out, setting new highs, and consistently the support is moving up, which is super risky to be short. And if the support's moving up, I could always cover a little bit at support, keep riding it on the way up, but my losses would just accumulate. It's better for me to just get out of these kinds of situations and play the other stuff, because the other stuff works. This didn't work. When we have such high volume, such low float, it's not good. And then especially with the news that came out. So unfortunate, I haven't been caught in a situation yet where I had like news come out after I got in. That's always like unfortunate, because there's clearly like insider activity going on at this point. It's not just a normal short squeeze. So thanks for watching. Yeah, we'll hit the drawing board this weekend, adjust my strategy, adjust hotkeys so that I have fixed risk. And then I'll have to just monitor news after, certain um, after the play. Like if I waited until this pre-market and then took the short pre-market high and took the short and then covered into, uh, that news outbreak, then I would have been safe. Even reversing there would have been really good. Um, but yeah, anyways, we learn this didn't happen to me before. It's happened, and then we'll move forward. And by 2026, I will have put this behind me, and will definitely be fully profitable. So yeah, thanks for watching and peace.